Hi, my name is Christopher Lethgo. Today, I will be presenting the paper Discovering and Exploiting IoT Device Hidden Attributes, a New Vulnerability in Smart Homes. This paper was written by Xuening Xu, Xiaozheng Du, Shenglong Fu, and Bo Lao, and was published in the Proceedings of the 2025 ACM Security, Audit, and Control Conference on Computer and Communication Security. Throughout this presentation, I will be quoting extensively from the paper since it explains the issue well. Everything I cover today should be considered a quote or directly derived from the paper. I will also point out that all experiments discussed in this paper were conducted in a lab environment with isolated networks and did not probe or attack any device outside the lab. Today, I will provide a brief overview of the components that make up a smart home, describe hidden attributes, discuss how hidden attributes can be discovered and exploited, discuss the consequences and impacts of this vulnerability, and finally, discuss countermeasures to hidden attributes and the underlying causes that led to this vulnerability. What do we mean when we talk about a smart home? For today's discussion, a smart home platform includes a cloud server, Internet of Things, or IoT hubs, smartphone apps, and the smart devices. Major platforms such as Samsung SmartThings and Amazon Alexa allow third-party devices to connect to their network in order to provide additional functionality, and each platform specifies what functionality it will accept from third-party devices. In order for third-party devices to work on multiple platforms, edge drivers are used to match the device functionality to the interface expected by the IoT hub. These edge drivers are used to connect the device to the hub. In many cases, the devices have capabilities beyond what is used by the platforms. These additional attributes can still be accessed and configured through APIs on the local network. Here is a diagram that illustrates the basic configuration of the smart home we just described. The platform operator, for example, Samsung, can directly control the hub and the smartphone app. The cloud server is responsible for exchanging event messages and commands with IoT devices via the smart home hub. When a homeowner uses the smartphone app to view or control an IoT device, the view or control command is sent from the app to the cloud server and then to the hub. Most smart home users rely on the manufacturer's official drivers that are preloaded on the hub. Smartphones typically lack the ability to directly access IoT devices. Consequently, most devices are designed to operate with third-party smart hubs and usually do not come with a manufacturer-provided smartphone app. The key idea of this paper is hidden attributes, and it is important to have an understanding of what is considered a hidden attribute. The authors define three characteristics that make up a hidden attribute. First, they are implemented by IoT device manufacturers and can affect the device's behaviors. Secondly, they can be accessed and modified by directly calling APIs on IoT devices. And third, they are not supported in the edge drivers deployed in the smart home hubs. For example, in the illustration on the right, a smart lock natively supports 4 attributes, but only 2 of them are available on the IoT platform after the mapping done by the edge driver. An attacker can modify the 2 unmapped attributes without being noticed by the IoT platform. In this example, lock state and battery are observable attributes that the user can see and interact with. However, the auto relock time and sound volume attributes are hidden and changes to them will not be seen by the user. Many of these hidden attributes can be configured through API access on a local network, potentially exposing them to malicious attacks. For the research that went into this paper, the authors analyzed 3 network protocols that are common in smart homes: Zigbee, Z-Wave, and Wi-Fi. Most of the discussion today will focus on Zigbee networks, but the lessons learned are applicable to Z-Wave and Wi-Fi networks used for smart homes. In order to manually discover hidden attributes, the network is scanned to identify all attributes and determine the valid range accepted by each attribute. This list of attributes is then manually compared to what is visible on the home automation platform. Any attributes that are not available on the platform are hidden attributes. The manual approach to discovering hidden attributes is vulnerable to the same human error that is present in any manual process. To mitigate the impact of human error, the authors of the paper developed an automated approach to discovering hidden attributes for the SmartThings platform. To do this, they used the SmartThings API and analyzed the edge drivers directly. Two approaches are needed, depending on whether the IoT device is already connected to the network. The SmartThings API manages IoT devices on the SmartThings platform and accesses device attributes via HTTP GET requests, returning a list of connected devices with their supported attributes in JSON format. This method can be used when IoT devices are already connected to the platform. When IoT devices are unavailable or not connected to the platform, the authors were able to analyze edge drivers containing a list of supported attributes for different IoT devices. By analyzing edge drivers, the authors extracted attributes supported by each device model. The authors implemented both methods to automatically obtain observable attributes on the SmartThings platform. The two automated methods obtained the same results for the same device models, confirming that the unobservable attributes are hidden. This paper looked at smart devices that use three different networks: Zigbee, Z-Wave, and Wi-Fi. Today, I will provide more detail on the approach for exploiting a Zigbee network, but similar approaches can be used for the other network types. To exploit a Zigbee network, the first step is to place a custom Zigbee device within about 325 feet of the target. This range is based on the capabilities of the wireless devices and any obstacles, such as walls, that may be in the way. After the malicious device is placed, the Zigbee coordinator device on the target network needs to be forced into pairing mode. There are several documented approaches to achieving this, such as disconnection attacks, selective jamming, and spoofing. For this paper, the authors used the disconnection attack method. Even without actively forcing the Zigbee coordinator into pairing mode, this can be a persistent threat. In the worst case, if the user does not repair a disconnected device for a long time and the attacked device drains its battery, the attacker can come back later and replace or recharge the battery multiple times until the attack is successful. Additionally, the attacker may attach a power bank or solar charger power bank to the attacked device, which could extend the battery life to months or even years. There is no tight time requirement for launching the attack. Regardless of how the attacked device is paired to the network, once it is paired, the attacked device sniffs Zigbee packets and finds events from a device of interest to obtain the network address and the endpoint number, which are used to send write attribute commands to the target device. This diagram demonstrates the basic approach. After gaining access, the attacked device updates hidden attributes, here shown as attributes 3 and 4. Because the attributes are hidden, the owner of the device will not be able to detect the change. Before we go into detail on what hidden attributes were found, it is important to understand the types of attack that can be implemented with this vulnerability. These vulnerabilities can lead to two main types of attacks: actuator attacks that directly impact the operation of the device, and sensor attacks that impact automation rules. For example, auto relock time attribute is the number of seconds to wait after unlocking a lock before it automatically locks again. Maliciously changing the value of this attribute on a smart lock to a large value causes the lock to not be automatically locked promptly after the user leaves the home, providing a time window for intruders to enter the house. This is an example of an actuator attack since it directly impacts the device. For an example of a sensor attack, consider a simple rule, such as when the motion sensor detects motion while the user is not home, sound the alarm. This rule aims to detect unusual movements, for example, a burglary, when their user is not at home. By maliciously changing the sensitivity of motion detection to a minimum value, the motion sensor may fail to detect the motion when an intruder breaks into the home and the alarm would not sound. The authors of the paper tested 26 popular Zigbee devices, spanning 12 different manufacturers and 2 different IoT platforms. The devices were chosen from well-known and trusted brands to ensure coverage and reliability. Additionally, a wide range of categories were included, such as locks, motion sensors, and water sensors, to ensure diverse functionalities and applications. They identified 88 hidden attributes in those 26 different devices. Today, I will focus on the vulnerabilities discovered in 2 smart door locks. For both the Yale Assure lock and the QuickSet 914 Smart Code lock, 29 attributes were discovered. Of those 29, 18 were writable for the Yale lock and 14 were writable for the QuickSet. Only 1 attribute could be observed by the IoT platform and the owner of the lock. This table shows the writable attributes that were discovered for the 2 locks. The values in the column show the allowed range to which the attribute can be set. The fields with a dash indicate that attribute is not present or writable on that device. While changing the state of some attributes, such as the language attribute, may only cause inconvenience, others, such as the auto relock time, can lead to safety issues. In a few slides, I will provide more detail on the impact of changing some of these attributes. Here you can see the real impact of changing some of these attributes. If you change the auto relock time, someone would have more time to enter the house when the user thought the door was locked. On the bright side, there is a hard upper limit in both the Yale and QuickSet locks of 180 seconds, or 3 minutes, so the door will not remain unlocked indefinitely. If Enable One-Touch Locking is disabled, the user may think the door is locked when it is not. Raising the wrong code entry limit allows an attacker more attempts before the lock is temporarily disabled. This would allow more attempts in a shorter period of time. Related to the wrong code entry limit, the user code temporary disable time can be lowered as well. For the QuickSet lock, this can be set as low as 1 second. When combined with the wrong code entry limit, this essentially removes any barrier to unlimited attempts to brute force the code for the lock. Up to this point, we have been focused on devices using a Zigbee network. However, as I stated earlier, hidden attributes can also be found on devices using Z-Wave and Wi-Fi networks. For this paper, 3 Z-Wave devices were tested, 2 sensors, and a siren. Like with the Zigbee devices, the hidden attributes on these devices have the potential to impact their operation and affect the safety of the homeowner. The chart on the right shows the attributes that were discovered for these devices. Some of the hidden attributes listed on this slide define thresholds for reporting changes in measurements. These attributes could be exploited by the attackers. For example, an attacker could set the threshold to a minimum value, such as 1% for humidity, causing the device to report every minor environmental change, which could quickly drain the battery. On the other hand, setting the reporting threshold to a maximum value could prevent the device from reporting any measurements, even if the environment changes significantly, leading to suppressed events and malfunctioning automation rules. The last of the networked devices that were investigated were Wi-Fi devices. For this paper, 2 devices were investigated, the Wemo Mini Smart Plug and the Sonos One Gen 2 speaker. Like the Zigbee and Z-Wave devices, smart devices using Wi-Fi networks also had hidden attributes. The chart on the right lists the hidden attributes that were discovered. In this case, the devices tested were not ones that directly impacted security, but if they are compromised, could be used to harass the homeowner. And, depending on what was plugged into the smart plug, there could potentially be more serious impacts. This vulnerability has the potential to have a broad impact. The leading IoT platforms have over 100 million users globally, and in one survey, 61 out of 85 people stated they used at least one device on a home automation platform. Amazon Alexa is more susceptible than the SmartThings platform. Amazon only provides basic support for IoT devices, which can lead to more hidden attributes, since they are not supporting the full capabilities of the device. On the other hand, Samsung open sources its edge driver codes, which encourages participation, leading to more frequent updates and overall improvements. This is not a simple issue to fix. First, it is unrealistic to expect all IoT manufacturers to invest in hardening edge drivers, as they often prioritize new features over security. Secondly, it is impractical for home automation platforms like SmartThings to resolve this alone. However, there are some countermeasures that can be taken. The authors propose automatic patching of edge drivers. They developed an auto-patching tool that identifies hidden attributes not covered by the original driver, and then automatically patches the driver with additional code and configuration files to display these attributes. Another step that can be taken is updating the capabilities and presentations of attributes. Capabilities define IoT device features on the SmartThings platform, and presentations determine how these capabilities appear in the SmartThings app. This will help all attributes be accessible by the IoT platform to keep them from being hidden. Finally, after the auto-patching tool is applied, the previously hidden attributes become visible in the SmartThings app. The authors further improve it by enabling automatic notification upon changes to safety-critical attributes. The authors also investigated the underlying causes that led to the hidden attribute vulnerability being present. These causes include secure join and rejoin protocols, such as ZigBee. To support legacy devices, many ZigBee networks still allow devices to join with weak or no authentication during commissioning using the well-known default key. Trust assumption. Many protocols used for home IoT devices assume that all devices within the network are trustworthy. As this paper demonstrated, that is not always the case. Loose protocol. The ZigBee protocol lacks clear definitions for device behaviors and attributes, allowing vendors to implement custom, potentially hidden attributes. Additionally, ZigBee does not require home hubs to support all mandatory attributes, including security-critical ones. Lack of user alert. Finally, when device attributes, including security-critical attributes, are modified, the current ZigBee system does not mandate a notification mechanism to alert the user of the change. In fact, for the ZigBee devices that were tested for this paper, none alerted the user when a device attribute was modified by another channel. To address the root causes, basic security principles that have long been known need to be better applied. While on the surface this may seem simple, years of struggle with basic cybersecurity principles proves otherwise. Here I will discuss specific areas that could address the root causes shown on the previous slide. Transparency and disclosure. A secure solution starts with mandatory attribute disclosure during device certification, enforced via protocol extensions or compliance frameworks. Platforms should adopt transparency by design, logging all attributes, even if not user-facing. Security in software development. The reliance on obscurity as a security mechanism in software development has repeatedly failed in traditional contexts, as seen in exploits of proprietary software where attackers reverse engineer hidden logic. In IoT, the assumption that invisible attributes are inherently secure creates a false sense of safety. A proactive defense involves adopting an assume breach mindset, treating all attributes as potential attack surfaces. This could be partly implemented using something like the automated auditing tool developed by the authors. Principle of least privilege in attribute access. The principle of least privilege, a cornerstone of traditional security, is often neglected in IoT attribute management. Attribute-level access control enforced by device authentication can protect safety-critical settings. Protocol-level defense mechanisms. Encryption and authentication are inconsistently applied in IoT. Zigbee's use of a shared network key allows attackers to decrypt traffic after infiltration. A stronger approach would use per-cluster encryption with unique keys for sensitive functions and secure commissioning with pre-provisioned keys. Security in all design and development aspects. The lack of user alerts in IoT systems, where attribute changes go unnoticed, highlights the importance of user-centric security. Future platforms should enforce real-time notifications for modifications of critical attributes, akin to intrusion detection systems in enterprise networks. The findings of hidden attributes and the associated potential security risks were reported to the Connectivity Standards Alliance, CSA, and the manufacturers of all the tested devices. Responses from CSA, Samsung, and Amazon were received confirming the validity of the reported vulnerabilities and acknowledging the findings. CSA notified its members to update existing devices that may be impacted. Amazon awarded a bounty of $2,500 to the research team for the disclosure. However, at the time the paper was published, SmartThings and other IoT platforms had not taken any action after the vulnerability was disclosed to them. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation on discovering and exploiting hidden attributes. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them in the class forum.